So welcome to the podcast where we are profit-minded business owners. And our goal through our podcast is to make sure we help not only ourselves, but our friends and those who are listening grow their businesses through real conversations that deal with real issues that we face, provide real activity when it comes to solving them. So thank you for joining us. And with me today is Lisa McGuire, who is, you want to tell us a little bit about the business name?
Sure, it's called Open Window Marketing, and it's really a fresh approach on how to grow your brand.
Great. And then Lynn Spencer is here with us from Killingsworth. Spencer, Lynn, why don't you share with us a little bit about your business?
Well, we take care of tax matters, all things from the tax return down to the tax planning and strategizing for our clients.
Great. And then John McAlister is joining us as also part of the Killingsworth Spencer team. John, tell us a little about what you do for the group.
Well, I don't know if I do that much, but my wife Janet Killingsworth, and I have been married since '94, and she started Killingsworth CPAs, went out on her own in 2001, and I've basically been helping her with her marketing since that time. And so my job, along with Lynn, is to grow the brand of Killingsworth Spencer, CPAs and advisors.
Yeah, and John, you have a lot of experience working with high net worth individuals, as well as overall financing the business. Just share quickly a little bit about your background there.
My background is I went to University of Georgia, have a degree in a degree in marketing, and just sort of a minor in finance. Wish I'd taken some more finance courses, but I've been in this industry working with business owners of closely held companies on their estate planning, their business transition, their business succession planning since '85. And yes, I have some billionaire clients, and they're a lot of fun. And my focus has been for the last several years to work on their strategy to get it to the next generation of ownership or leadership. Because some businesses aren't going to survive the next generation because there's no generation to send it to. So, but there's employees and there's a community. So sometimes it's better off just to sell it or to let the employees take it over. But then there's got to be a plan to make that happen, or it's not going to happen.
Sure.
So
that's great. You're gonna add a lot of insight here. And then Jacob Andrews actually runs. Tell them a little bit about your business and why you're here.
Yeah, so my business is Drones iVue. Right now we really specialize, or up until this point, we've specialized in video promotion, video marketing for individuals and businesses wanting to build their brand. So it goes a lot with what Lisa does. And so just with all of us here, it's a great fit that we think we can help provide value to not just each other, but everyone out there listening as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jacob. And my name is Corbin Cook, and I run a company called SMB Strategy Consultants. And my business is helping business owners work on their business through a very powerful cash flow methodology called Profit First. So today we're going to kick it off talking to each one of us a little bit about where we got started and what led us to do what we do now. And then we'll kind of walk through some of the issues we faced and talk through some of the solutions. Lisa, why don't you kick off and tell us a little bit about a little bit of your background and how you started your business, and tell us about the problems that you're solving right now.
Okay, so I'm a brand strategist, and how I got into this is I was working with a company as a startup for 18 years. Started 18 years ago with a $2 million annual budget, and over the process of 18 years, we grew the business to where it was a $17.5 million annual budget. Quadrupled the client base and raised over $50 million in capital and operational expenditures. So was quite successful in that. The interesting part is when I started, I had very basic skills, and our main competition was a very good quality product at a very low cost. So we had to get very creative on how we were going to market and attract clients to our business. And so we were able to do that. And so through that, I kind of, bruised my knees and banged up my elbows and figured it out. And so became very successful in that. And then at the end of 18 years, really just walking away, I had done what I had come to do. And I wasn't challenged anymore. So I decided to kind of go off and start my own business. And how I did that, I really figured out what did I love to do, and how could I really help people to make a difference in their bottom line. I happened across a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, and became very enthralled about that whole process on how to engage your clients and help them make more money. And then finally, I just wanted the flexibility to be my own boss, to do what I wanted to, when I wanted to, and work how I wanted to. So that was really how I started.
You know, looking through your resume, I noticed, you know, how much of the story brand and that the book you were just talking about, how much of that you must have already been using in some format, working for the nonprofit and developing the marketing campaigns that you were doing in order to, like you said before, you were competing to almost a free version of a high quality school, and you were yet still raising all the money you were raising. So how now do you see what you were doing then translate into what Donald Miller has put together in the SB7 framework that you'll talk about a little bit later?
Right. So I just had an aha moment one day. I started figuring out, you know, when we communicated as an organization, we always talked about ourselves. And it was one day I woke up and I thought, you know, they don't care about us. They care about themselves. You know, the client cares about them. So I told my whole team, I told our organization, we have to stop talking about us and we have to start talking about them. And if you don't get that, get out of your seat and mentally get up and sit on the other side of the table in their chair and listen to yourself speak. And when you do that, you're going to see how you are irrelevant. They have a problem. They don't care about our problems. They're not their problems. It's their problem, you know.
Yeah.
So I really kind of happened into that probably about 8 years ago to be
Jacob, you need to listen to this.
to be a very customer-centric type communication. And really just anytime we would do write copy, you take out I, you take out we. You could say the same thing, but just take out all those words and you have much clearer, concise message.
Yeah. All right, well, that's great. So tell me a little bit more, or tell us a little bit more about when you decided to make that leap. You mentioned that you weren't challenged anymore. Obviously, you had a lot of challenges, you know, but it was no longer innovative for you, I guess.
Right, correct.
So when you read the book, what was your moment of going, this is what I'm going to be doing? And tell us, and maybe it wasn't the book that did it, so tell us a little more about that.
Just as I read the book, everything in here resonated as all about the customer. It's all about the client. And you know, at the end of the day, if we don't have clients or customers, we don't have a business.
Yeah.
And so really looking at all of the communications that comes in with social media, with email, all of that, we are just bombarded with over 3,000 messages a day. So how do you cut through that clutter? How do you get people to listen to you? And so that's where the story brand process really is not about telling your company's story. You know, a lot of business leaders will say, okay, I'm going to tell you a cute story or a heart-rendering story, and then I'm going to tell you about me. It's not that. It's how can you enter your customer's story and help them with their problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, so, you know, where you're now, tell us, when did you get started? When did you launch?
Officially launched in April of this year. So I've only been doing this about 7 months or so, but I'm excited about the traction I've got.
So with all of our startup businesses that might be listening, tell us a little bit about what your biggest challenge was in that leap from, hey, good idea, to forming a company, and now you're out there, you know, developing.
Well, I think the biggest adjustment was the idea that I had to go find my clients. You know, when I was working for someone else, they came to us. Of course, we had to attract them, but I had to have feet on the ground and, you know, sitting in a seat having coffee a lot. Meeting a lot of people, and I wasn't really comfortable with the idea of networking. But when I realized networking isn't about going to a function and collecting business cards and walking home and sitting on your desk saying, wow, I did great. But really just walking into an event and saying, you know what, I need to have one meaningful conversation.
Right.
If I have one conversation, then I will have succeeded.
That's the spark.
And so, and also not caring about me, it's what do you do and how can I help you? Because if I do that enough, I'm going to be able to connect with other people. and connect people with other people. But I think besides that aha moment of I'm going to have to go out and find my own clients,
Yeah.
was really narrowing what I wanted to do and being very specific about that. Because in my former role, I wore a lot of hats. And I could do a lot of things well, but if I narrow that focus and bring it into one thing I can do really well, then I'm going to be much more profitable and much more successsul.
Interesting you're talking about that. It's difficult oftentimes for an entrepreneur or business owner to find that one thing, that niche, what we want to, whether it's an actual demographic group, whether it's an actual product. I know a lot of times they get bogged down with multiple products, selling too many things. Maybe elaborate a little bit on that, because I think that's really important for a startup to understand.
Well, and I think when you're communicating with your customers, if you can tell them the one thing you do really well and how it fits into their business or into their need, they're more likely to onboard with you than if you give them 5 different things you do. If you give them 5 different things, they get confused. It becomes muddy. They don't know what direction to go. So really helping them, you're helping yourself by helping them understand how you can serve them.
That's great. Now we've been talking about the one thing, and you've mentioned it, you've seasoned throughout the conversation what you do, but maybe just sum it up for us. What is the one thing that you do really well for someone who's listening right now?
So I help businesses solidify their brand. And as a result of doing that, they know what they're about, the brand formation, they know how to engage with customers, that's the brand engagement, and then they know how to keep their customers, retain their customers. So that whole customer journey and experience is so critical if you want to keep your customers. It's one thing to bring them on, but if you don't keep them, you're just constantly filling the funnel.
Yeah.
Jacob, you've known Lisa for a little while now. Share with us a little bit. Share with us a little bit about your experience with trying to deal with your own brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what Lisa was just talking about really resonated with me. It's actually a transition that we're going through right now. As many people in the room here know, our big focus has been video production up until this point, and we're trying to take the idea of the content creation, the media that's out there right now that people are consuming to help build their brand, and then realizing that if we're trying to be the brand builders for everyone, we're being the brand builders for no one. So we've really taken a step back and really focused on one core area of media production, which is actually stepping back from the video production. And now we're focused on the insurance industry, doing inspections and inventory of homeowners and companies' roofs and their assets inside. So whether it's a home that just has collections and they have sofas, TVs that they need to account for, and there's damage on the roof, it's all within that same insurance roofing industry. And I think it's really helping us identify a focus within our brand of what we're trying to do instead of trying to be something for everyone. Because the idea for Drones iVue is, in its very big picture form, is a media production company built on top of a social media platform to allow individuals to produce their own high quality content, something that really hasn't been done before. But trying to get to that point by doing it all at once, we've found out that's not going to work, or if it would, it would just take way too long.
Yeah, so you found that having too many areas where you were maybe talking to a customer or a prospect or even in a networking event, that you were almost like demonstrating too many things, so
Right.
they didn't know where to fit you in.
Right. So that's actually a really great point. So for anyone listening, I got started in a networking group, and going into it, I just wanted to let everyone know what the big idea with Drones iVue does, what our capabilities are. But like Lisa is saying, it's not necessarily about what our capabilities are. It's what value can we provide for the customer so it helps build their business. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's taken me quite a while to understand, and now it's trying to implement that on a daily basis with my conversations I have with people. And when you're in scenarios like networking groups where you only have a few minutes to talk at a time, you're not going to be able to get across that big picture idea. Whereas, like Lisa was talking about, just getting out, having coffees with people, having meaningful conversations, then you can kind of give people a big picture idea of where you're looking to take this business as opposed to where you are right now. Otherwise, there's a lot of gray area in between the two.
Yeah, I know that one of the things that I think all business owners experience is the challenge of trying to understand not just our own brand, but the services. Would you say that was one of the bigger challenges that you faced in starting your company, or is there something else that you ran into that was almost bigger than that?
Yeah, that was definitely a big problem, still is. We work to overcome it on a daily basis and really figure out how to market that value that we provide to now our core area of roofing and insurance. And there's other problems along the way. Again, just narrowing down that focus is one of the biggest issues that we've encountered. But getting clients in all those different areas actually, again, just came through meaningful conversation. But when we're diversifying ourselves through all these different industries, having all these different clients that need media for different purposes, then we're not becoming the expert in any one industry. And then people, they're just all over the place. They don't even really know what they're doing. And to a large part, that's true. But at the end of the day, I think really the most important thing for me was just to get started with the business. So just to do it, right, and learn along the way.
And on the flip side, Lynn and Killingsworth Spencer had been around for a good while now. So I would say that you aren't struggling with the how to find customers now. It's how to find the right.
No, that's not necessarily true.
So
you're always trying.
Tell us about that.
Always trying to find new clients. Atlanta's growing so rapidly right now, and there's so many different things going on. I remember, in school, if a business isn't growing, it's dying. I've never forgotten that ever since I was your age. You've got to be growing, and if you want to grow a business 10% a year, you better be on track to grow 20, because you're gonna lose clients to death. Some people just don't like you anymore. Some people move. This kind of thing. Sometimes a business just dies. So you better be on track to grow, much faster than what you really want to grow. Otherwise, you're not going to hit your goals. So, getting clients is always a challenge. I don't care if it's a law firm, it's a CPA firm, whatever it is. You've always got to be growing. You got to be expanding your brand. So it's always a challenge. And one of the things that we have to do, and one of the things that Lynn and I have to do, because we play off each other so well. I like to write the blogs, and I write very quickly, and I can just zip it out, and I don't worry about what the punctuation is or anything like that. I let her deal with it, because I can sit there and deal with it later, but I'd rather get the ideas on paper, and then we collaborate a lot. And we argue about some things, and which is good. I mean, and I'm always paying attention to what I'm around me, and I try to play on conversations and stuff. And I remember listening to something on Showtime or HBO or something several years ago when they were interviewing the Eagles and how the Eagles got started. And I'll never forget something that Glenn Fry said. He said, he always tried to pay attention to where he was and what he was doing. And, one of the greatest songs, one of the greatest hits they ever came up with, Lion Eyes, was written as a result of a conversation in a bar. And what it was is the spark here he was. They didn't have any money. They were just getting started, and these old guys were getting all the girls were coming up, the younger girls were coming up to the old guys. And so Glenn Fry says to the barkeep, he says, well, what's going on with that? We're the good looking guys. He said, Lion Eyes. And he went, yeah. So he said, there's a hook. And so he said, somebody have a napkin? So he wrote the thing down there, and that's how that song got started. A lot of things happened with that. I got an idea for 4 blogs listening to an argument in a restaurant. And I don't necessarily carry pens with me all the time, but I have a Samsung Note 9, and I was just sitting there just writing on my thing, and the guy saw me writing, he didn't know what I was writing, I wrote the hooks. As to what they were arguing about, and in 3 hours I had 4 blogs written. They have no idea what I was doing. But it was just, you're always listening for conversations, you're listening for things, you're waiting for opportunities, and you never know where they're gonna come. And so you just gotta be ready, you know, to grow business.
To say, it sounds like part of your client acquisition is your blogging. Tell us a little about, have you guys always done some sort of writing, whether it was an older newsletter and then you migrated over to email, or tell us a little bit about how you set up your blog and really how you even designed
You want to take that, Lynn?
campaign.
I'm not quite sure if you got started before you got me involved.
Well, I've written articles for what I do. I've been published 8 or 9 times now, and I always like to write, and that's how I relax, is I write. And you know, like I don't keep up on all the television shows, and I don't have to binge watch and stuff, but I write, and it's fun for me. It's very cathartic, and I can get ideas out and stuff. And you know, you don't have to be a great writer. You know, just get your thoughts out, and you know, you can get them. You can get somebody to help clean them up. But I read a lot, and my kids always on me because you know, I don't ever read your books and stuff, fiction stuff. And I said, well, I read so much stuff during the day. I really just would rather just veg out and do something else. So you know, but I got this idea to write this blog for Killingsworth, and I went to Janet and I went to Lynn, and I said, you know, once we do this, we cannot stop. Once this train leaves the station, it can never ever stop, because you've just got to keep after this. And you know, and I said, this is a big commitment. Are we ready? And they said, let's go for it. Let's do it. And we've been doing it for about 2.5 years now. And I laughed when Janet says, well, what are all we going to write about? I said, we'll never run out of ideas. Trust me, we'll never run out of ideas, and we haven't. And
No, as a matter of fact, at the end of all the blogs you have coming up next and with a topic, and I'm like, why do you do that? There's so many other things I've got in my head.
Oh, you commit.
Well, yeah, because I want to, you know, I found that if I, it's kind of like, you know, how is it the most successful, you know, shows? They always have a hook, you know, look at this, something coming up for the next one. Oh, I got to come back for that. But if you, I like to just, and then I haven't told Lynn this, so this is the first time anybody's heard this, but one of the things, the reason I wanted to go with that next piece to that is to put down, you know, coming up next week, it forces us on the next I've got the posts written, you know, what I want to do for the next 3 months. And yeah, and sometimes I have to, you know, I may have to have an extra submission for the week when something comes up. Like this next week, we're going to have to put something about the new tax law changes as relates to the 401ks and the 403bs and the catch-up IRAs and stuff like that, because people are going to need to know about that now to be planning for next year on the takeout. So you know, you always have to have something ready to go in case there's an emergency or something. So, but it's I'd say, you know, the thing about the blogs, and I'll shut up, is the, you know, I can't, Lynn can attest to this, you know, we've had people reading the blogs for months, and we know who reads them because I can open and see, and then we know who's forwarding them to people, and people will come in and say, gosh, I've been reading your blogs for 8 months now, and or 9 months or a year, and you know, I always knew that if I was going to change CPAs or something like that, we were going to come to you. And they, you know, sometimes they just come with their stuff, in their box, and you know, well, what's this? And well, we know what it is. Well, we don't even know what it costs. Oh, what do you charge? Because they've already decided they're going to come to this, and that's, you know, that's to me is we did our job, and when we see that, we have.
Sounds like a couple of things I picked up just to kind of rephrase some of the tidbits here. One is that you're always paying attention. You're listening for opportunities that you find out and about to talk about and make it relatable, not just about taxes, but you relate it to things in life. The other thing, obviously, is that you plan ahead so that you know 3 months ahead what your posts are going to look like. Even to some of the chagrin of the person's like, oh, I want to do something else, but you're prepared in that way. Something else I want to talk you guys to talk a little bit about is how you integrated that with video, because it's not just a written blog. You also include some sort of a video typically, and even if it's just the introduction to Killingsworth, Spencer in the video, there's something in that blog that they can actually watch. Is that right?
Well, actually, the idea for the blog post came, my oldest daughter, Rachel, was into acting and really pretty good at it. She decided she didn't want to do that anymore. And I paid $500 when she was 13 years old, so this was about maybe 8 years ago, for her to go to an acting class. And one of the guys that finds talent for Disney, he's on TV, I can't remember his name, John somebody. But anyway, he said, who in here can, I'll never forget this as long as I live. I was in the back doing emails and writing some stuff. I had an article I needed to write, and there was all these kids in there, and he said, who in here can sell? And my radar just boom, because I knew exactly where he was going with this. And if you could have been there to see what I saw that day, it was amazing. These ladies, these helicopter moms were in there with their kids. He's 3, she's 5, she's 7. Are you crazy? What are you talking about? And so I glared over at Rachel and I said, you better answer this. We've talked about this before. So he comes over there and he says, Rachel says, well, I know what you're talking about. And he says, what? And she said, the camera never lies. And he went nuts. He starts, touchdown, score, da-da-da-da-da. And he said, you're only the 3rd person on the planet that's gotten that answer right. And if you could have seen those other mothers looking at that, looking at him, like, they're just glaring at Rachel, looking at me, glaring at me. And, he said, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And he had some outtakes of some scenes from Disney shows and said, look what's really going on. And it was amazing how fast those kids could pick it up.
Okay.
Because it was just not just the actors, but the background. What's going on here? Who's screwing up? And then every the 3-year-olds, even the 5-year-olds, not 3-year-olds, but the 5-year-old kids picked it up just like that, and just boom. So, and he says, so what I said was, let's do the videos, and let's get people warmed up to us. Let's see, have Lynn do some, Judy do some, Janet do some, and just get warmed up to who we are. And so they just tell something about yourself so that there can be a connection.
Yeah.
And so that seemed to really help. When we integrated the videos with the blogs, that seemed to really ignite a lot of things. And surprisingly, it wasn't as hard to get them to go as I thought it would be. It's bigger, a little bit bigger for Janet, but once Janet got used to it, she was a natural with it. And Lynn just picked up to it like a fish to water. And I couldn't believe Judy. She got hers in 2 takes. Wow, that's pretty cool. So, it's fun, and we're going to do we do a lot more of that. And so, but you've got to incorporate different things, and you've always got to be willing to try new things, because we've screwed some stuff up. It's different kinds of blogs. I mean, we with experiments and stuff like that, Lynn and I are willing to experiment. We realized that, my gosh, we've got to, we've said, gosh, that just didn't work very well. Mm-hmm. So we realized we had to have a hook with every one of the blog posts that we write, that we needed to have some sort of a tax tip in there, or some don't just write to write with a purpose. So just because people are busy, and you know what, you could get away with playing around and not getting something, that doesn't have a hook for the day. But I started reading Seth Godin's blog every day for about the last 10 years, and he's written, I forget how many blog posts. I think he's about 7,000 blog posts. And, you know, some days they're long, but sometimes they're just like 2 sentences, you know. And he says he writes them in a lot. So if he's off for a couple of weeks, he's got them all queued up. But you know, you can get by with just sometimes just, you know, not being a little bit lazy. But if you're lazy more than 2 or 3 times in a row, you're about to lose your audience. You know, I don't care how good you are. You better have some good information.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do, is to give people great information. And really, you know, you can do that in any business. Because sometimes people want something like, even a car mechanic can do something with some great information, or heating and air guy, or just, you know, what is it that you do that you're passionate about? People want to know about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can get a YouTube video on practically anything now, and how to fix a washing machine, or whatever. You know, you can, you know, how to plant flowers correctly, whatever. There's a video about it. So, you know, today, you know, the younger generation is so lucky to have these resources available to them, like we didn't have at my age. You know, it's fascinating to me. It really is. And I like being around the younger people, because they keep me honest. They, you know, there's another way to do something. Okay, let's listen. You know, and I do listen. You know, and I challenge them. And if I can't win, you know, then okay, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
we do the new thing now. So
John, that's pretty about, and hearing about just the learning curve you must have had of starting the blog, you know, emulating someone that, like I said, that you've been reading for a while, and then bringing video into it. Sounds like you were pretty minded to put this in place. Lisa, I know a big piece of what you do is you help reduce that learning curve, and you help someone who maybe doesn't have an established brand like Killingsworth Spencer begin to not only develop the brand in a way that creates raving fans, but you also shrink that time frame and expense that goes into throwing marketing and then figuring things out that work or don't work, and then having to kind of adjust along the way. Maybe share some insights into maybe your best ideas around. Tell us a little bit about what you think on that.
Okay. So I think you're exactly right. I think a lot of business owners know that they need to do marketing, but they don't know why they need to do marketing. They just think it's going to bring me more business, but they're not very strategic and thoughtful about how to go about it. So really communicating, first figuring out what you do and the value that you bring to customers, and then how do you engage them. And so really looking at what is the problem that the customer has, how they feel about that problem, because here's an interesting fact. As businesses, we sell to the external problem, but people buy because of the internal problem.
That's cool.
And so, you know, if you have, let's say you're looking for a lawn care company. Yes, you need to cut your lawn, but the internal problem is really, if I don't cut my lawn, I'm going to be so embarrassed, because you know, my lawn's going to look terrible. My house is going to look like it's not keeping up with the rest of the neighborhood. I won't be able to face my neighbors when I'm out in the community because I'm the house that has the bad lawn.
you might get a homeowners association.
Yeah, you would get that too. You would get that too.
You've been fine.
That's exactly right. So really, just figuring out who you are and the problem that you can help your customer solve, and then come along as the guide to them and really offer empathy to them. You know, it used to be that people would do business because they liked you. Now people are doing business because they are like you. And so how you get people to see that they are like you is understanding their problems, stating, we understand how frustrating it must be. And so when the customer hears that, or the client hears that, they think, oh, they understand me. I want to do business with them. And so really offering that value to folks, and streamlining your messaging so you're not throwing thousands of dollars into a website. You can spend so much on website, you can spend so much on SEO and AdWords and paid ads, Facebook ads. You know, think about the language that you use before you go into that process.
What is the process, and maybe this is something that you offer, to really build that out. I mean, hearing John talk about his process, he's just quick-minded for it. I know a lot of business owners are really good at what they do from a technician standpoint, but have a really hard time getting into the communication realm, the PR realm, the marketing realm. What's the best way for someone to, I don't know, structure this? Do you have a framework for that or some ideas?
Sure, I do. One of my lines of business is called Love the Brand. And really, when we want to engage with someone, we want to build a relationship with them. And so you're looking at how do you build a relationship with your customer. So that's the Love the Brand line. And within that, I use the Story Brand 7-part framework where we learn who your character is and what they want and so on. So there's 7 parts to that. But there's 2 key parts that are really a challenge for business owners. One is they are inside their business.
Sure.
So they can't see the forest for the trees. They don't know what it's like for a client who doesn't speak your language. So when you start using insider language,
I hate that.
you might as well be speaking a foreign language to them. And so they're hearing a different language, they don't get it, it's too much trouble, they're going to keep on moving. So that's one thing. And the second thing is business owners, and this is rampant, I can look at probably 95% of the websites that are out there. They talk about themselves, and so it's so much work for the potential client to come on and figure out, well, what do you do? And how does that apply to me? And how do I get started with you? And again, if it's too much work, they keep moving.
So it sounds like for someone to start a blog or start using video communication, they really need to have a very concise message. They need to know what their brand stands for, but not have it, I guess you're kind of describing a bunch of noise almost.
Exactly.
There's too many other things going on within their message that it's hard for that new customer to really gravitate towards it. And if they don't gravitate towards it, they don't feel like you understand them, and therefore they just go on to your competitor.
That's exactly right. And so really, when I work with clients, we come up with 7 buckets of messaging. And you really don't need to talk about anything that's outside those 7 buckets. If you have those 7 pieces of messages and can use that in your ads, you can use it in video scripts, you can use it in blog posts, anything you do, white papers, all of that can all be applied within your business to be very successful.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but once you get it done, it really goes quite well, and you've got that, and you can use it in so many different areas, whether it's an email nurturing campaign, getting a lead generator, the blog post, it sounds like they're a very effective lead generator, doing a video, that as well. But again, once you get those 7 pieces of your message really tapped down, then you're able to use it wherever you need it.
Well, just as an aside to that, Corbin had me go through the storyboard branding thing that you had for the profit-minded business first, and I said, okay, so I saw what you were doing, and honest to goodness, I mean, I had it written in about an hour. I mean, I knew exactly where you were going, but the thing about it is what I saw this as, and I thank you so much for this, Lisa, because what I saw it is, oh, you know what? This is a toolkit to build a house.
Exactly.
It's all I need. All I need is a pen, and I just need to just sit and think a little bit, and then just, boom, how do I want my house to look? So I just put all the stuff there, and I wrote it all over there, and then I faxed it to Corbin, and he said, wow, that was fast.
That was great.
Because I said, well, it was because she had the toolkit for the house. These were the instructions. Just do this, 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 this. Don't think outside the box. Just do this, and then you see how the house came together. It was really quite easy once you saw what you were trying to accomplish. And I think that if more people were to do that, number one, that what would happen is they wouldn't waste a lot of money on Facebook ads. And I'm not saying that they're bad, but I've read for a long time, 50%, these big people at these big corporations tell you all the time, I don't know why they brag on this, because they're stupid, but everybody does it. 50% of our marketing dollars just goes down the toilet. I just don't know which 50%. I thought, Well, don't you think you should take the time to figure out which 50% is bad? So you can either fit that 50% that you're going down the toilet and have it go to something really good, or else put it in your pocket and put it and distribute it to the employees, or make something better, for the employee experience or the customer experience. I mean, I don't know which 50%. I mean, that's just lazy to me. So, and when people getting started out in their business in the first place, they need to hold on to every dollar they've got, because it's precious. And so do it right, and don't worry about it. But you've got the toolkit to build the right kind of house.
Yeah. And really, to go back to what you said about how much money is being wasted on marketing, Infusionsoft did a survey of small business owners at the end of last year. Surveyed 1,000 small business owners, and 64% of them said, my marketing is not working, or I'm not sure if my marketing is working.
Wow.
So when you look at that, think of how much money could be reallocated to other areas. Marketing is important. It's an investment in your business, and that's the way that you're going to find results. But you've got to be smart about your marketing, and making sure you have the right message is the way to start.
Sounds like that's where they're wasting the money.
Yes.
It's not having that concise, clear message. One thing I liked about what you said was that you don't just do this one time and create a website or put out some blogs. You use that messaging across all media forms.
Exactly.
What I understand it too is that you really entrench it into your culture as a business. Because it's not just, what I've learned is that it's not just about your own messaging outbound, it's what your employees feel and experience.
And your clients too, because if your clients know what exactly that you do when they're in conversations, or they're at a party or at a networking event, and they hear certain trigger words that you have said, oh, I know exactly who you need to see. You need to call Lynn up.
Yeah.
You need to call Lisa up. You need to call Jacob. You need to call Corbin.
Yeah, I would definitely say that from what I've seen is that the two biggest problems is messaging and cash flow. And, reality is they go hand in hand. If your cash flow is going to be weak because you don't have enough customers, or your messaging is off, so therefore you have too much time between each new customer. So they really go hand in hand, which is pretty powerful. Jacob, tell us a little bit about what your recommendations are when it comes to integrating video into this. I know Lisa's mentioned that obviously John has talked a little bit how they integrated video into their blogs, but this is one of your special areas. You're using video to do everything you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So.
Talk to us about it.
Like I was talking about earlier, video is what everyone's consuming right now. So if you don't have a video clearly portraying a message that you're trying to get across to an audience, not only are you leaving money or profit on the table, but you're wasting marketing dollars. And that's one thing that we've had to struggle with, even as a video and media company. Again, we just put out content and put money behind it without any real plan behind it. Yeah. And now, since after talking to Lisa, I've been, okay, who really is our audience that we're trying to get to respond to our advertisement? And even thinking about it in an advertisement might not be the best way. It's you want to share valuable and entertaining information with that audience. And it always comes back to the message. You can have the greatest content in the world, but if there's not a streamlined, focused message behind it, it's not going to get to the right eyes of anyone. And even if it does, it's not going to be useful or meaningful. They're not going to engage with it in any way. They may watch it, but they're going to go on right on to the next video or the next content, just keep scrolling down in their feed. So not just what the message is, but where you're posting it, where you're distributing it, the video. If it's providing value to your currently existing clients, an email campaign where you're including in a blog post might be best. If you're trying to attract new customers, especially younger demographics, Instagram might be the best way. If you're trying to get super targeted audiences, whether they're business owners in this particular industry have specific interests, and Facebook might be the best distribution method. And it's all of these things that you have to put into consideration when you're making a video from the very start. Who is this going out to? How are we going to get them to view this video? And then how are we going to get them to engage? Either share it with someone that they know that could be a customer, or hopefully engage if they're a customer themselves.
Interesting point. So one of the things I heard you mention, and then you kind of follow up on, is that if we aren't clear in the messaging, then the person listening to it, which we're all bombarded by thousands of messages a day, and whether it's through a feed or watching videos, if it requires too much brain power to understand what you're trying to say or accomplish in that, whatever it is,
Right.
Whoever you're talking to isn't going to remember it. Talk a little bit about how working with Lisa, or just in your own development, that you figured out, what are you doing to accomplish that?
So up until this point, not the most effective way, but I found it to be tried and true, and over a long enough period of time, it should work. If not, it will work, which is trial and error. You're going to throw a lot of money away doing trial and error, but when you have no other direction as how to get this video out to the right platform, that might be your only option. And again, my biggest thing is just get started. So if you waste a few $100s when you're just starting up, realize you're just starting up, and that few $100s, if that's going to break you, you probably wouldn't last in business anyway. So just understanding that, it's going to be a difficult process to identify that audience and build content that gets that audience to engage is going to be something ongoing from day 1 to day 1,000 and beyond. And it's just a constant process that you have to be planning out and working on.
Yeah. Lynn, just being that you kind of get to see so many different businesses from the inside, from where Spencer, obviously without naming any specific companies, what are some of the problems we're talking about today? Messaging, cash flow, and of course client acquisition, and ways to represent ourselves out there. Are you seeing that they're experiencing the same problems, or is that, or even something that maybe Killingsworth has experienced? Share with us a little bit of what you see from the inside.
From the inside, I wanted to go back to something that we were all talking about, and why I had mentioned that the blogging, where I'm like, we're already tied to the next topic. And the reason why I mentioned that is because listening, which is key to what you said, and especially what you said, and if you spend much time with John, you know that he is listening and he is taking notes. But listening to our client base, that's why if you do listen, you can get on top of things ahead of time and keep from big problems developing and snowballing.
That's great. How do you, is that something that was just natural for you, or did you have to did you actually have to train yourself to do that? How do you recommend business owners like, that seems so common sense, but I'm not doing that very well?
I think I'm learning the hard way that this year I've had just too many hats on for the past year and a half or so. And I think part of it is as business owners, we can put on way too many hats and be bombarded in way too many directions. And so what I'm finding is that we have to pick our strengths and put some of those hats on other people so that we can do the things that we folk like to do. And one of the things I do like to do is listen, and I like to nurture, and I like to help. And it's really hard to do that when you've got 40 other things on your plate to do.
Well, one of the things that that happened to us is that about a year ago, coming up very short, it was very close to a year, Janet was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it started out at stage 1. But the time they had to do, said Janet, I remember being there in the room when the diagnosis came back, and I had a feeling this was not going to be good, so I said, I'm going, with you, and so sure, well, when you hear the C word, your world just, and I could just only imagine what Janet was going through, you know, and she's like, what's gonna happen when I tell Lynn? I said, well, you gotta tell her, you know, you gotta tell the staff, you know, so she was just devastated. And I said, just when you calm down, you know, just go talk to her. So, you know, so she couldn't even go to sleep, you know, so we found out about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and so she called Lynn up and she says, we need to go have a cup of coffee. So we went to Starbucks or something like that at 7:30 that night, and boom, just was out. And so because Janet wouldn't be able to go to sleep, telling her. So it's her partner, and you know, so you know, I don't want to steal what Lynn has to say about this, because what she went through was the same thing, you know, that Janet felt on a lot of levels, and you know, because it changed our world as to what we were going to have to do for this tax year. And I mean, so why don't you just describe that, because it was bad time, you know.
Well, the timing was unfortunate. If you all recall that last year we had a Hurricane Irma come through, and it threw the tax year off, and it gave everybody an extension until January 31st. Well, anybody that we're going to do taxes for late in the fall is already a procrastinator. So it kind of just took this entire big base of tax work and pushed it till January. And then right prior to that push getting started, we got the diagnosis. And I'll tell you, it's really hard. You know, I can imagine the fear that Janet had. I had the same fear for Janet. I had a fear for our firm. Oh my goodness, what do we do when our top producer and the person that like all of our clients ultimately depend on is going to be out. So it was
Well,
it was a day or two of
well, 3 weeks. Well, one other thing too, 3 weeks, and we were at the doctor when I saw the final vote for the Tax Cuts and Job Act, and so they were telling her when they were going to do the surgery, and I remember I said, oh my God, boy, just, you know, we have earned, and now we got this, the whole world's going to change, and you know, you know, not to take away what would happen with Janet, but I realized right then, I said, well, I've got a whole new set of blog posts I'm going to have to do here for the next few weeks, and I got to get busy and read this bill. And you know, for the week after Christmas, I was reading everything I could find about it to get up to speed. And meanwhile, we had to deal with what we were going to have to go through, because Janet was going to be out 6 weeks minimum. So why don't you talk a little bit more about how you rallied the troops, because you had a little pity party with yourself, you know, and stuff like that. But then you said, you know what, you know, and it was just natural. I'm not making fun of her. She just did. I mean, you know, God. I mean,
That's
I did.
devastating.
I did.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know, she depends on me, and so you know, I can't. Well, I'm gonna go climb a hole. We gotta all work together, because everybody. She depended on everybody. You know,
well, I view every problem in life, every one of them, that there's a silver lining behind something, and we learned from everything. So it probably was just a day or two, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's in store for us. And that a big part of it was rallying the troops, because the troops were not. They were not excited for this next stage. What are we going to do with our leader, you know, out essentially? So it was stepping in Janet's role as a manager and beginning to manage. However, I don't do tax, so I couldn't fill her shoes there. But it was pulling the best out of each of our employees. We have 2 other CPAs and an enrolled agent on staff, and just pulling the best out of everybody. And you know what? Everybody found that opportunity to learn and grow, and we still need Janet. Janet's amazing, and she's probably one of the best tax people in Atlanta. But it strengthened everybody, and it strengthened our team. And I am so excited about tax year 2018 next year, because all of us have grown tremendously.
I remember going with Janet to one of they made her go see a psychologist, and I'll never forget that. I went with her on this one meeting, and Janet was just like, what's going to happen, and what's going to happen, and you know, they told her what her stages of journey were going to be, because you know, when it first came through, when she had the surgery, they said she was going to be in and out. We're going to pull the tumor, be done, and they were going to give her tamoxifen for 5 years, and in and out, boom, and do get an expander, and then be able to get a new breast, 6 or 8 months later, a year later. It was going to be all boom, boom, boom. When they get in there and find out that it had gone into her lymph nodes, boom, that immediately makes it stage 3. So that the protocol, they were like shocked, and so when they went in there and did that, so that changed the whole protocol. And I remember when we were going to the psychologist and talking about some stuff, and the psychologist, she was so patient with Janet, because Janet type A, and to the hilt, and she said, you know what, there was a woman in here just 2 days ago, and you know who she is, but I can't say her name because she's very famous. She works here in Atlanta, and she's about 4 or 5 months ahead of you with the same situation, same age, and she comes in here, and she's back to work on Monday. That'll probably be you. And she gets her treatments on Thursdays, Fridays, and she's back to work every Monday. And really? No way. She said, oh yeah, way. And sure enough, that's what it was. And Janet just drove to get things done, to work for the firm, work for her clients and stuff. And Janet and I were talking about this at dinner the other night. She said, you know what, I can't imagine what happened here. This is a devastating diagnosis for any family that has an illness like this, but she said, I so wish you were here to do this, but she's with a client today, but she said, this has been so helpful for me, but and I said, I'm sorry I had to go through this. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, I was able to see, that I picked the right partner, through Lynn.
Wow.
And I just started crying, and I said, wow, she said, because Lynn just stepped up to the plate, and she says, everybody in that firm stepped up to the plate, and she said, we all came through, and she says, I learned who I really had, the power of the people that we really had with this firm, and, and she said Friday night, she said, you know what, I cannot wait for this next tax time, because she says, I know what I can get out of everybody here, and, it made me think back, my grandfather worked for General Patton in World War II. He blew up bridges for him, and I remember asking Granddad after watching Patton, with George C. Scott, and I said, was Patton like that? He says, no, he's a little rougher than that. George C. Scott was a little nicer, but he just said, he expected the best of everybody, and he was able to put the vision to what he needed to get done, and he was able to, he wanted people around him that would do that for him, and I just thought, wow, she's kind of like him. She just does what she needs. She gets the people around her that gets to do will help do the job best. So anyway, but you did a great job, Lynn, and getting rallying the troops with everybody, and we made it through, and we actually grew a bit. So because Janet was right back to work, when a little bit before they told her to, but that's who she is, and she would just work through the pain, and so don't use it. So my point to this: don't use an illness to say, well, okay, I'm just going to give up. Don't ever give up. Just don't, because you'd be surprised what we can really do if we reach really deep down in our soul and our gut to get something done, no matter how old you are. Just don't quit.
It's amazing when you think about, like, here we are talking about the challenge of finding new customers and the challenges of, presenting our solution to people's problems, business owners' problems in a concise way, and then life is unscripted.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter the types of solutions we have, how automated we are. If we experience an illness, there is no greater problem than finding out that you have cancer. There are other problems that are as large, but that's the big one. So thanks for sharing that. That was a lot of powerful.
Well, we'll have Janet here with another one, and let her share her own story, her own way, and I want to do this in such a way. The next round we do this, I want Lynn and Janet and Judy in the hot seat, because they've all got a story to tell about what had happened to the firm, and and it was just, I told Janet, he says, well, what happens if some clients just don't, just say they're gonna leave? I said, let them go. Let them go. If they're gonna be that way, cause life is like unscripted, like Corbin says here, just let them go. But she was just, oh, what can we do to help? Is there anything that we can do to help, And it was just like, she was just so overwhelmed. It was just amazing. And I think a lot of people, they don't think in terms of that, because people do, if people like you and like what kind of job you do, they'll cut you some slack.
Yeah.
They really will.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
It's something that you're talking about, experiencing that kind of a moment. One of the other problems that, I run into a lot, especially with my background in insurance and wealth management, is understanding that when you're faced with this kind of a situation, it's proper succession planning. What does happen if things go, the wrong way? And it's one of those problems that most business owners, when they're trying to grow or trying to get started or trying to launch a new brand or trying to expand their business or trying to get through a plateau, sometimes that's neglected, the succession plan. And, I know a lot of times you ask a business owner, well, all right, so if Mark and Judy are the partners and, over the weekend Mark gets hit by the Budweiser truck, what happens on Monday? And a lot of times we don't think about that. But, like you mentioned before, is that our families rely on it, our employees rely on the business.
The community relies on you.
Sure.
Your clients rely on you.
So share a little bit about, when you hit that moment, what was the conversation between Lynn, Janet, about succession planning?
Well, no, let Lynn address that, because I've got some other stories, about, I just had a client pass away 3 weeks ago, and whoa.
Yeah, I don't know.
We weren't prepared for that. We weren't.
No,
Okay.
we weren't, but but we are now.
Here we are now.
We are now.
And what made it more difficult too is at the same time it's like, okay, I've got to get somebody else in here who is very knowledgeable and loves to take care of their clients, because we would not take any tax repair. The experience and the caring are just two very important qualities to us. And with the market doing so well, everything so well, unemployment is very low, and there aren't a lot of people out there looking for jobs. So it did make it even more difficult when there's really not a lot of help out there. But the growth really is watching each of our individual staff members grow, and now we do have a bit of a game plan in place.
If I may add something
Please.
on this. So the succession plan is actually something that the kind of folks at Killingsworth Spencer actually helped me kind of get start thinking about. Someone who's 21 just starting a business, most people my age don't think about, what happens if one of my business partners dies or they just leave the business or whatever. So even before me with Killingsworth Spencer, I had problems where I had to part separate ways with two business partners that I had. I met them up in school, and that's not easy. It's cliche, don't go into business with your friends. And yet all of my business partners are more so family than friends at this point. But after running into those problems before establishing any sort of formal partnership agreement that we all signed to, all agree to, not that just showed in case showed what would happen in case anything happened to any of us, but what our responsibilities are within that partnership, what our equity is, and really making that clear, cut, and dry, so you're not running into these problems a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, when you have profits coming in that don't know where that goes, how that's split up. There's just so many problems that you can avoid by setting up that framework, having a plan from the get-go of who do I want to work with and what is their involvement going to be. And that's something now that we have in place for myself and my two other business partners. If anything happens, we have buyout clauses that we can make sure that we're the first ones available to take on that equity. So some other person, not that they would want to at this point in time, but could come in and take over. Or I've been made aware it's not even necessarily that's the most problematic thing to worry about. It's having a family member take on that equity. Just that's how it's passed on, like any other of your assets.
A wife or whoever your next of kin is, it's someone that inherits your estate.
Right.
And if you're part of the business is going to go into that estate, you can find yourself in business with the spouse of the other business partner.
Who I've heard can tank businesses. And that's.
Well, not to mention, if you don't have it funded, how can you buy that spouse out, right?
Right, and that's going back to the cash flow problems. Like as a young up and coming business owner, not wanting to take on any debt, it's very limited cash flow when not only you don't have your message to have a constant flow of clients, but the jobs are few and far in between as you just get started, and having any problems on top of that, it's just gonna make you go crazy. In all honesty, I mean, Lynn was talking about looking forward to the tax season. One of the only few business owners, that does look forward to the tax season, right? Especially that wasn't even something I took into account just getting started. I had an idea, wanted to start doing some work, and then a year and a half later, I didn't have taxes filed for that first year. And so it's just something to keep in mind as you get started, that there are elements that you should take into account of problems that you may encounter, that you are going to encounter before you even get started. So
you're saying plan before you have to have a plan.
Yes, but again, I don't want to deter anyone from getting started, because I really do think that is the most important thing. But yeah, having a plan is going to help you grow and scale faster than just about anything else.
Well, one thing I can say, is if people listening to this or watching this, if you're going to start, when you start a business, and I'm not saying don't start one, I'm just, because if you got an idea, go for it. But what I'm about to say is going to rattle a lot of people, and I hope to. But when you choose an equity partner in your business, no matter what it is, you better choose them as carefully as you do a spouse, because it can be very, very, when there's no money on the table, no one cares. If you start making some money and stuff, that's when the real problems start to come in. And I have a client who's been dead a while. She made a comment that resonates. Said, John, the one thing that always is true, the more money that's on the table, the bigger the cockroaches that come out of the woodwork. Well, that's true. There's a little bit of, no one cares. You throw $100,000 on the table of distributions, so whoa, everybody's real interested in there. It's kind of like the lottery. People have started. They go out and buy lottery tickets. Like they'll spend. I read where somebody spent $20,000 on lottery tickets for this last big one here. He didn't win, and so they just don't pay attention to what's going on, and then you've got to have a plan in place. Just because someone has some money, wants to put some equity in there, that could probably be the most dangerous thing that you do, because sometimes they're looking, I'm just going to invest and they're going to get back and I'm going to make money. But if they're not going to work for it, work for the equity too, they're useless. Just give them debt, pay them off in debt, and then something like that, because they'll be a lot happier and you will be too. Because sometimes some people just don't deserve equity, and then because the biggest problem you have with equity is what the valuation is going to be when you want to take them out. Oh, it's worth a lot more than that. No, not necessarily. Right. So it can be a really big problem. So be careful about that, and talk to an advisor. Really and truly, sit down and talk to a business advisor. I don't care where you are. Talk to an attorney. Spend a little bit of money. Spend $1,000 with an attorney or a CPA. They can all there's hundreds of thousands of stories that people can tell you, and that are working this every day, that can just say, oh, I know now why I don't want to have an equity partner, just because they can give me $10,000. They're just gonna sit back and not do anything. We had a business in our conference room blow up right in the conference room, and and it was a great business idea. Oh my gosh. And blow up right in the conference room. And Janet was sitting there with Judy. I wasn't involved in this meeting. I was in the office next door, and I said, "Well, it's about to go. Wait for it. 3, 2, 1. Boom! It was gone, because they had 7 partners, and they were all going to put some money in there, but they all wanted to keep their jobs. They're paying jobs. And so when they did that, no one was working except this one guy that quit his job, and his wife, and another guy's wife. The 2 of them were working, and they needed to put some more equity. I don't need any more money. Well, and then just gone.
Yeah.
Just gone. Well, Janet felt so bad about what was going on. She gave half of her fee back to him, and said, and then they fought over that.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, well, you know what? I have 20%. I want 20% of that back. It was just. I felt so bad, because 4 of the people who were equity partners should never have been equity partners. Never, because they didn't do any work.
Yeah.
Well, dealing with succession planning is pretty important. Don't not start the business, but as soon as you're up and running, you really need to map it out, right? Just for those who are listening. Key points obviously is that pick the right partner. Listening to what Janet said about Lynn, it was really important to recognize that when you go through tough times, having the right equity partner is critical. Other things involved making sure there is a structured plan to buy out other partners. Spouses get involved. You care about the families of the other business owner, but all of a sudden now you've got a business partner who doesn't know anything about the business and can't actually contribute, but they still have half the business. So it's important to have the right buyout clauses in place, but even more importantly is to use insurance to fund them so that the money is available, the lump sum to take care of it. I'm saying all this just because you have a team here with us. If you want more information about it, contact us here at profitmindedbusiness.com, and we can get a team together to help you walk through some of that stuff. What I'd like to do now is transition back to some of the marketing stuff we were talking about. One of the things that we've covered so far.
Let me say, as we're wrapping this up, if you're going to start a business, or else you are in business now, please go review your documents, your last will and testament, and your trust agreements with your attorney, and make sure that you do it every 3 or 4 years. Things happen, things change, and you need to make sure that it's up to date.
Absolutely.
And please tell your spouse what you're doing. My gosh. And if you've got a business partner, please tell your business partner what you're doing and why, so that things are coordinated. So that, I remember him saying that. And if one other thing I was going to say too, if you have a business buy-sell agreement, please make sure that there's a clause in the buy-sell agreement that forces you to do a valuation, an updated valuation every year on or around a specific date, and that it's signed by the partners. You don't know until after someone passes away how valuable that document is. It's happened to me 4 times in my career, and you have to make sure that document's signed. I was able to, because I was so adamant about this, I was able to avert a major lawsuit in a business on a valuation issue after death, and the guy died in an automobile accident about 3 months after this thing was signed. And we're busy. Well, I said, no, we're signing it. This is the week we sign, guys. This is what we do. And and there was a formula that we had, and then everybody had to agree to it and sign it. There were 3 partners, and then they said, thank God, John did that, because the wife says, well, no, we're going to come in there, we're going to go, no, not going to happen. This is what Jim signed it. This is what you're getting. Okay.
Well, the signature there, but also if you don't have that document and you have an IRS problem, the IRS can go and try to value the business for you on your behalf.
You don't want that.
And you don't want that. So it is critical to have the right documents in place, and you have a team here if you don't already have it built in with us, so feel free to give us a call with any questions. So talking more about going back to cash flow and marketing, one of the issues we talked about was using blogs, communicating. Lisa, I really want to dig in deeper on the step-by-step, because I feel like the story brand and the conversation around what Donald Miller put together in the framework, and then how you've implemented that within your own practice, it gives the business owner a step-by-step, not just in putting out a blog or putting out some AdWords. You have a whole engagement and client journey that you help develop. Share with us a little bit about your what that process looks like and how you help business owner go from here's where I've been all this time, here's what's been going on, and you look at the website and it's noisy, and you look at their messaging and it's not concise, and you kind of go, whew. How do you take them from that state to the state where they feel like they're in control again?
Right. Great question, Corbin. You're really, rather than coming in, and this is good for all business owners, of telling people what you do, you need to listen. So when Lynn talked about, listening to your clients, let's listen and see what they feel is the problem, and maybe ask the right questions to find out, is that the real problem, or is that what they think the problem is? So what I offer within the brand strategy is really 3 lines. One is launch the brand. So maybe you decided you're going to do what Jacob says and just start that business, which is great, and get out there. But time comes where you're doing well and you're hiring an employee to come in, and maybe another one, and you start seeing that the way the employees are talking about your business maybe doesn't align with what you had intended to bring up in the business.
Sure.
And so what happened is you really just jumped into the pool and got it started, but then really didn't take time to figure out, where's your vision for where the business is going? What are you all about? What's your mission? What values do you stand for?
Yeah.
What are you about and what are you not about? So that is the launch the brand, and really developing a brand personality and essence, so people know, do I want to do business with you, or our values align? So I really believe you're going to be in my best interest. That's launch the brand. Love the brand we touched on a little bit, is building that relationship to find the right clients who are going to be with you for the long term. So getting that messaging down and then being able to execute on that messaging. It's one thing to get the messaging defined, but then to execute on it and apply it, that's a whole nother thing. So that's love the brand, and then finally live the brand. So you can plan all you want, you can develop your messaging, but if it doesn't come off day to day, you're not going to stay in business long.
Right.
So it's almost putting yourself, as I mentioned earlier, in that customer seat. But let's say they, I read something about a business. It was a minor league baseball team. And so the owner had some of his staff members every so often go, and they had to follow their customer journey. They had to go park in the parking lot and find out how far you had to park. They had to stand in the concession line. They had to see what it was like to interact with your brand. How did the staff members treat the customers? And then when the customers walked away, what did they say about you?
Yeah.
So that live the brand is really doing an audit of your customer journey, figuring out what's working for your customers and what's not, and then developing that, defining it with a Net Promoter Score. So work in those 3 ways.
Do you help people with that, Lisa? Or maybe a business that has a secret shopper or something like that. Do you do some of that?
Well, I don't necessarily do secret shoppers, but really just having the business owner tell me what their intended experience is, and then working with folks who can come in and really determine, is that being delivered.
Yeah, I remember Janet and Lynn have a client, and Lynn and I went over there and we did some stuff, and I said, there needs to be some changes here, but I'm not sure what it is. You know who we need to bring over here? We need to bring our daughter over here, Hallie, who's 18, and Janet says, would you just go over there? Here's $20. Just go in there and buy some stuff. Just sit in there and have the experience. And she says, why? She says, just do it for me. I said, okay, Mom, I'll do that. And she says, and write up what you think. Just write it all out. And Hallie's so detail oriented anyway. She wrote all this kind of stuff, and she typed it out. She gave it to Janet and me, and I went, oh my gosh! And she had all this stuff nailed. Boom, 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 boom. And she said the color scheme's wrong. Da 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 da. You know, and she took it to Lynn, and Lynn's just like, oh my gosh! You know? So it was just amazing. And so we found a way to go tell her what was going on, and she said, who was here? Well, people are here trying to attract. But you're sending the wrong message by what you got here. Da 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 da. And she went, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. I'm so busy in the business, I didn't see what was going on. And so she didn't do everything, you know, because some things were going to cost more money and she didn't have it. But she said, you know, you can do some of these things she did just for a few $100s. She noticed a change right away. It's a lot because they don't live that customer experience. And that was just, it was neat you talking about the minor league baseball team. You know, it seems so obvious, but a lot of people don't do that.
They don't. And in the day and age where we have, you know, Yelp and Open Table and Google reviews, and you go to Amazon, you don't buy anything without reading a review, or most people don't. And so when a customer is not satisfied or they feel like they haven't been delivered the best experience, it's nothing for them to go on and put that out there, and that's costing you money.
Right. We one of the things at SMB Strategy Consultants, we implement a tool called it's like a bird eye is the actual product itself, but it does the review and reputation, you know, marketing and management. And you're so right. It's like in today's day and age, it's so easy for a business to be damaged by not paying attention. So it sounds like your part of your process is to help the business owner recognize and pay attention so that they don't miss something so critical. You know, I noticed just from the website that there are 3 different ways for someone to engage with you, from a, you know, do it themselves to a done for you. Tell me a little about why you use the 3 different ways to go about it.
Well, I think we all bring skills and talents to the table, and you know, particularly when it's marketing, you feel like you know your business so well and you've been successful promoting it up till now. But really, whether it's, you know, I find clients who have read the Building a Story brand book and they say, oh, this sounds pretty simple, I can do it.
Right.
They'll develop a brand script, but again, because of their insider knowledge and language, they don't necessarily see it the way. So, you know, where they may want to do it themselves, they might reach a point where, you know, I need you to help do it with me. So I come in and do coaching. Or there are people who are so busy, and you know, I've got some folks that say, you know, I don't do this, I don't do it well, I'm a numbers person, I'm going to hand this off to you, just do it for me. So I really want to again listen to where the client is. Are they so excited about it they want to get into it, and you know, I'll let them go along and this looks great and just affirm that, or maybe they just need a little help along the way, or I'm there for, you know, if they want to just hand it off.
Yeah, all right. So that sounds pretty easy. And what's the best way for someone to reach out to you and maybe ask some more questions about your process and even engage with you?
Sure. Well, my website is Openwind Marketing, OPENWIND marketing.com, or they can email Lisa at openwindmarketing.com. But you can schedule an appointment with me right off my website.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Jacob, you know, I don't know if we touched quite enough on exactly how someone can utilize Drone's iVue in their business. You know, if you would just kind of share with us really quickly how how the business owner can benefit or using language as how can the business owner use you guys to be a better hero in their story?
Right. So what it comes down to is with the nature of media production, there's so many different types and it can be used in so many different ways that it really does start from listening to our client or potential client, seeing what their problems are and seeing how we can cater a media solution to fit that problem. Whether it's a roofing company looking to showcase their customer experience or showcase the process of a roof being started to being completed, what the sales process is like, or if it's that same roofing company, and they want to be able to have an aerial map that provides measurements of that roof, so they don't have to waste time and money sending out inspection crews. Where we come in, we can provide the inspection imagery to be looked at from the office, and that frees up those inspection crews to actually be on roofs, building and repairing roofs. So it's things like those that can really be catered to any sort of business, or even at the individual level. We make it affordable and cost effective to really streamline the marketing, the data management, the promotion of really any business or individual.
The promotion of any business. Just in other conversations, we've talked a little about how you do some corporate videos. Is that a part of what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we just finished up a few videos for that roofing company, showcasing. We produced 3 videos for them. Just one showcasing their process of building out 2 roofs at the same time from start to finish. And then we're also able to sit down with the customers that they have to showcase their customers' perspective in a very real way, where we showed up at their house, asked them questions of how it was like to work with the roofing company, what it was like for the roofing company to contact their insurance provider and make sure that their roof was covered with shingles and with cost. So it's things like those that we can really cater video experiences to any sort of corporate environment to either showcase the customer perspective or their perspective of what they do from within.
Okay, that's great. And how can someone reach out to you if they wanted to talk to you more about that?
So right now our biggest online presence is our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/dronesiVue. But if you also go to dronesiVue.com, you will also see links to all of our social media as well as contact information down below.
And you don't spell view.
Yeah, so it's
So if you would just spell it for us so that we don't mess that one up.
yeah, so it's drones, DRONESIVUE. That IVUE stands for Imagery, VR, Unmanned Electronics. So we kind of use all those technologies to cater solutions to our customers.
Great, thank you for that. Lynn, share with us, just kind of a snippet of who your ideal, or who do you want to be working with, and is it business owners, and what type of businesses do you like to work with from Killingsworth Spencer's perspective?
We do tend, and we want to work with business owners, and we want to work with small business owners. And unlike Jacob's method of trial and error, we do not recommend that with tax, whether it's reporting or strategizing. And so when we get the new small business owner, we feel like we can offer them the most assistance at that point and get them started on the right foot. And we got to get with Jacob real early on and get him on right footing. And frequently, all too frequently, we do get business owners that have come to us after they've gotten a letter from the IRS and they realize that they need somebody a little bit more capable to handle these problems. And we tackle them and we handle them and we get them on the right footing going forward, and we retain those clients as well. But we really do like to start with the small guy, or the new guy, and get him going right.
That's great. And then John, I know you being part of Killingsworth Spencer, you had a lot of the insights here, and I guess if you will maybe just wrap it up with how can somebody reach out to Killingsworth Spencer best, whether it's Lynn or John, somebody.
I think the best, I'm just low-paid help on the marketing side. I've got my other business that I primarily do with business owners on the Secession plan, but I've helped Killingsworth Spencer do that. I think the best way to do that is to reach out to Lynn, and you can reach through the website at www.killingsworthspencerllc.com, and KILLISWORTH Spencer SPENCER LLC.com. I did that well. I practice it.
That's good.
Just do that, and then you can do the links, and then go look at some of our past blog posts, and look at our website. Look at some different things. Lynn actually took the picture that's on the centerpiece for the website, which did a great job with that, and she's kind of an accomplished photographer. She hasn't said that today, but I'm gonna say it now. So anyway, so we do that and just look around and see what all we can, all the services that we offer, because we also, Janet said something at dinner on Friday night. She said, I really want to just make sure that people know that we're more than just an accounting firm about numbers. Just like, because sometimes people think of CPAs as real sterile people, and they just, I'm not about the numbers and stuff. She said, I just want people to know that we're here to help them grow their business profitably, and that's kind of like, we came up with the idea to doing the profit-minded, business deal, because so many people, they don't realize that if they'll tweak just a few things, they can build their profit and stuff like that. And as I work with some really large companies, when they want to go implement a change, they don't, contrary to public belief, they don't go in there and just start blowing things up. They'll go in there with screwdrivers, so to speak, and just tweak certain things to get certain results, because if they can move the needle just say 0.5% or 1%, and they get people in the right direction. Oh, this is working. Let's do this some more. Let's put some jet fuel in the back in the car now instead of just low test gas. So it just, you got to try something. You got to be willing to start slow. Don't go in there and make big changes, because people are going to fight you.
Yeah.
So we want to help people grow their business. So they can pay us more in tax return preparation, and we've got some clients that have been with Janet for 30+ years, and they're paying a lot of money in fees to get taxes done, but they've got a lot of work, and she's helped some of them just really grow their business. I mean, paying a lot more in taxes than they ever thought they'd ever make in their life, and they're paying those in taxes. So it's just, it's fun to see this. It really is, to see somebody push to see something what they could really do if they didn't even think they could.
Well, that's powerful too. And from SME Strategy Consultants, we offer the fractional CFO role, which is a big piece of how you and I and Lynn ended up introducing each other and working together. And dealing with cash flow is one of the critical components. And with our system in place, it's powerfully transformative, especially when you tap into the messaging component. You get the top line and the bottom line worked out, you have a great foundation to grow your business from. So I just want to thank you all for being here with us today. It's been really helpful, and hopefully everyone listening gathered some tidbits along the way. Feel free to reach out to any of us with some more questions. You can reach me, Corbin Cook, at you can go to profitmindedbusiness.com or 404-593-0626 with any questions about any of the members here that you can't reach out to them directly. Thanks again so much, and we look forward to meeting you on our next podcast.
Thank you, Corbin.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We're out. Cut.